Welcome, ladies and gents. It's Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter. Of course, you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. First and foremost, there was a fantastic fight tonight between Fernando Martinez and Jerwin Antuanne. Martinez won the fight by unanimous decision. Very well deserved in what was a real barn burner, a high-octane affair. Congratulations to him. I'm not going to go too far and too deep into that. That was for the IBF flyweight title, so a significant fight, but I feel like there's more to get my teeth into from an analytical perspective from another couple of fights that occurred tonight. So I want to talk more about them. And they were Antoine Russell against Viktor Postol and Chris Colbert against Hector Luis Garcia. Now, I want to start off talking about Antoine Russell. He is now 15-0 with 15 knockouts, and that looks superb on the CV. Viktor Postol's a good name, so that's significant to have on there as well. It's a significant victory. Had to pause there because I had a coughing fit. Significant victory, and he is from the famous Russell family, of course, Gary Russell Jr.'s brother, and so he's going to stand out. People are going to look out for him. The thing is, he's nothing like Gary Russell. He's not as talented as Gary Russell, and if you want my honest yet humble opinion, there's a lot of work there to be done. He makes an awful lot of errors. I think his footwork is terrible. In search of a better word, it really is bad. He crosses his feet, he brings them too close together. When he's going to throw the backhand, his back foot comes off the floor, and more often than not, he squares up. He brings it forward without shifting to change an angle or anything like that. There's no point to it. He's not trying to change stance to change the angle. He literally just squares on. You could see he's aggressive though and heavy-handed, and he'll launch himself into shots, and he does have some variation in terms of the pattern of what he's doing. You know, he'll throw a 2-1 instead of a 1-2, or he'll lead to the belly. You know, there's shots that he does where he'll lead and then come straight upstairs from there once he's gone to the belly. There's certain things that he does which are unpredictable. And that can be difficult to read from the perspective of a pattern. And if you get right up close to him, he lets his shots go. He's better on the inside than he is at range. He lets his shots go and he's willing to hit anything. Chest, ribs, solar plexus, shoulders, doesn't matter, forearm, head, whatever he can find, he's going to hit. And you can see there's some physical presence there, and he can wear guys down. The guy's got 15 knockouts at 15 fights for a reason, okay? He's a guy that will grind you down. But those errors that he makes, for me, he's tailor-made for a guy who's very, very capable of being on the edge of range and countering you, keeping you turning. When Viktor Postol was moving to his own left today and he was making Russell turn, when Russell would throw that backhand, like I said, his foot would come off the floor and he'd square up. He's tailor-made for a step-back counter down the pipe, probably with a backhand, but whether that's even with an uppercut through the middle, you can have a lot of success there as well with him. He can fall into shots, basically. If you can frustrate him, make him chase you, and quickly change the angles on him, switching from left to right, back and forth, messing with the range, changing levels with him to change the target that he's got to aim at so that he starts to overreach, you're going to be able to counter him, and you're going to be able to land flush. And that incessant forward momentum will start to slow down. It's going to make him reluctant to just start coming forward. If he's up against the guys like Matt Korobov, who's very, very good at that step-back counter, guys like George Kambosos, who was, they're different weight categories, right? I'm not saying literally these guys. I'm just talking about the style of fighter. George Kambosos, who was doing that consistently to Teofimo Lopez. Edge of range, getting him to commit, step slightly out of range, come back in immediately with a combination or a shot down the pipe. Josh Taylor, superb at doing this. Don't start sleeping on Josh now because he had one bad night, right? I firmly believe, even though I thought it was a terrible robbery, and you can see that video that I put up tonight, I gave a very detailed technical reason as to why things were not going right for Josh Taylor. If he addresses those and makes the adjustments, he would beat Jack Catterall in a rematch, in my humble opinion. So don't sleep on Josh. He isn't suddenly no longer a top-level fighter. He's an elite fighter. He just made some errors tonight. Well, that sort of fighter, that style, a guy with that skill set, that style of fighter, up against a Antoine Russell would cause him nightmares. This is a problem that Antoine Russell's going to have unless he can work on his feet. Now, he is only 15-0 now. They're development fights, right? He can improve, he can kick on, so he's one to keep an eye on. I'm not writing him off. I just don't think he's as talented as Gary Russell Jr., and I think there's a lot more work to be done. Completely different stylistically as well. That was for the vacant WBA Continental Americas super lightweight title. So, he's not at the highest level yet, but it's a big recognizable name that he's got on his CV, but there's a lot of development to be done. Now, the other fight I wanted to talk about was Chris Colbert against Hector Luis Garcia. Garcia got a wide unanimous decision victory. You can't get guys that are more different than these two. Hector Luis Garcia is very, very methodical, heavy-handed, and he's heavy-handed without loading up. Okay, he places a lot of his shots, and you see the variation there when he's doing that. He throws this lovely, for instance, right hook, and as he throws the right hook and he'll turn into it, he'll drop his left shoulder to then throw a left shovel hook to the body. Okay, he does a lot of stuff like that, but the reason he doesn't load up and he just seems naturally heavy-handed is because his hands are incredibly slow. He's very, very slow. But timing, as you often hear, beats speed. For me, that's a little bit of a short sentence. The truth is, timing beats speed when it's married with power, right? If it's just timing versus speed, you might time the guy as he lets go of his combinations and you land your shot, but then as you then enter the exchanges, if you haven't hurt him, his hands are rattled off faster than yours. There has to be an element of power there with the timing to be able to deter the guy from releasing these fast missiles, so to speak. Well, he was able to do that because Chris Colbert is the polar opposite. Okay, when he was coming down to the ring earlier tonight, I tweeted to say I love the fact that he's got this colourful attire on, colourful gloves, look like a jigsaw puzzle. You don't really see that. And it was brilliant, you know, blue hair as well. You want to see that entertainment factor. You want to see a bit of colour in the ring. Personally, I loved it. He had the sort of the tassels on the skirt too, something that you saw with, say, Paulie Malignaggi as well. I like those sorts of showmen, you know, I enjoy it. But you have to be able to marry substance with style. And Chris Colbert, for much of tonight, was just style. Flashing hand speed, flashing. But what happened was when he was being punched by Garcia, when they were punching together, you could see how it was really affecting Chris Colbert. And after the first 2 or 3 rounds, I think it was after the 3rd round, he got caught with a long straight shot and it rattled him to his boots. And you could see that it affected him without him being rocked anywhere, but it was a heavy shot and he seemed to go into his shell. And what you started to see, even from the beginning, Chris Colbert started to cover up, to almost fold at the solar plexus, tense those ribs and sit back on the ropes and often on the turnbuckle. Now, a lot of what Chris Colbert does, this sharp shooting, sniper type punching, is not too dissimilar from somebody like Adrian Broner. But you know, when Adrian Broner was in his prime, he was hugely underrated. I mean, he was overrated at the time, right? But now, since then, he's almost become underrated. When people talk about Adrian Broner, they say, he was just, you know, he was just another guy that was hyped. He was a hype job. He got exposed. No, Adrian Broner was a top-level fighter. A little bit overrated for sure. He wasn't the new Floyd, but he was a top-level fighter, reached a ceiling as he started going through the weight categories, fought guys that were too big, too strong, that were better than him, and eventually he didn't really live the lifestyle to continue to try and improve as a fighter or to go down in weight if it was possible to do, go back down, and to really excel in his career. But the talent level was there. And one of the reasons that the talent level was there is because apart from the sharp shooting, short, accurate shots, he married that with an active defense. He would often hide behind the shoulder, but he would move. He would get that upper body movement and he would lean behind that shoulder. He would deflect a lot of shots, block a lot of shots, and he's always keeping his eye on you as well. He'll be there, he'll be leaning back. When you're throwing, you're done throwing, he'll shoot off his own sharp combinations to catch you and try and hurt you and deter you from throwing with him. And that was something that he was very, very good at. Now, he was a little bit flat-footed with that wide stance. I personally felt he lost to Paulie Malignaggi. I thought he would beat Marcos Maidana, actually, but he didn't. And one of the reasons was because of the over-the-top right hand from Maidana was catching him out behind that shoulder. So he was unable to adapt. But one thing you have to say about Adrian Broner, in that fight, he showed a lot of character. Paulie used to question his character a lot. And what you saw is that he could have found a way out. He'd gone down twice heavily. He came back and he carried on fighting and he was winning a lot of rounds, and Maidana deservedly won the fight. Much to the delight of many people that were watching. I remember it was a very popular sort of decision. But the fact of the matter is he showed some guts in there, right? Tonight, Chris Colbert, and I'm not trying to undermine him or be too disrespectful because, of course, anybody that steps in the ring has got some balls there. But there's an element of him jacking it in a little bit tonight. Right? When he was up against those ropes and he was covering up, first and foremost, he did not have that ability to roll off and come back. He also didn't have that thing that you see a guy like Canelo Alvarez doing, whereby when he's on the ropes, or you saw Jack Catterall do it tonight, he leaves a bit of space in behind him and he'll lean on the front foot, these guys. And when you're looking to land on him because you think, right, he's running to a dead end, what he can actually do from that low position leading onto that lead foot, okay, he's leaning his weight onto his lead foot, he can just literally stand up which changes the angle. It creates distance. So from there to there, you create distance. Then you can lean back onto the ropes. So you've still got 2 potential movements. From there, you can end up to the side. 2, 3 potential movements where you're not trapped. Whereas when you're high up and you're up on the ropes, there's nowhere to go. You're trapped, right? He doesn't have that Colbert, that cuteness when he's back up on the ropes, like the guys I've spoken about. Instead, he would cover up with that high guard and just sit back on the ropes and try and survive. Now, a lot of Garcia's shots were landing on the gloves and the arms. He did have a tight guard. But if you're going to have a tight guard that's inactive and you're not moving, when he's landing his shots on your gloves, he lands 1, 2, you've then got to throw back. Make it an exchange whereby if he's throwing 3 shots and he's landed 2 of the 3 on the gloves, you then throw your own exchange with your blister and hand speed and you land 3 shots in return. Well, now you've outlanded him 3-1, 3-2, and then you're covering back up, and then you're able to, win those exchanges. Instead, he wasn't doing that. He became gun shy. Now, at the end of round 10, his trainer said to him, listen, you're not getting a decision. You need to go out there and you need to go and get the knockout. And what did Chris Colbert do? He got on his toes for the last 2 rounds and he moved around the ring. Now, this is probably because in round 7, when he got dropped, I think, was it round 7? He got dropped in one of the rounds, whereby he came out in that round looking to walk Garcia down and let go of those fast hands. And he walked into shots. And maybe it made him think, look, when I do let my shots go and I'm trying to fight back and put it on this guy, he's just too heavy-handed for me. And he didn't want that smoke. But the point I'm making is Chris Colbert has talent. He can bounce back from this. He does need to develop a more active guard. He needs to be more aware of what he's doing defensively to make a guy pay. It's not just about covering up. You've got to make a guy pay if he's going to seek to walk you down like that, especially when you've got the physical attributes of the hand speed in comparison, right? So he's got work to do for sure. There's talent there, but the one thing you can't learn is heart. And you just have to ask yourself, does this guy have it in him to bite down on that gum shield and say, you know what, I need a knockout here. I'm going to let go of my hands. If I get knocked out, I get knocked out. But I'm letting go of my hands because I know I've got faster hands than this guy. I know I can pop a little bit. All right, 6 knockouts from 16 wins. That doesn't seem like he can punch. But I think a lot of that has to do with the way he fights. Those sharp shooting sort of shots rather than really putting his hands together and trying to grind the guy down. Can you adapt now in the last 2 rounds and go for the knockout? Can you try and put it on this guy? If it's even close on the judges' scorecards, which it wasn't, maybe you can even drop him 1 or 2 times. And you might nick those last couple of rounds. You might get decision in your way. Do you have that in you? It didn't look like he did tonight. Let me know what you think about Chris Colbert moving forward. Let me know what you think about Hector Luis Garcia as well. How does he cope in this weight category at super feather? There are some big names there, some top fighters there. Chris Colbert was deemed as one of the top dogs. It didn't work out for him. Let me know what you think about that. And also the Gary Antoine Russell fight alongside Viktor Postol and how you measured him and judged him and where you think he goes from here. Thanks for watching, everyone. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.